Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix, and welcome to Closet Movie Rambles, where I talk about all movies that I found in my closet while cleaning. This week's movie is The Shining. It's about 1 hour and 54 minutes long, and the movie starts with a panning shot from a helicopter over a landscape, and then followed by some very dramatic music, and then cutting to a text saying the interview, where Jack, the father, is applying for a job as a janitor at this hotel called the Overlook Hotel. Then cutting to the family, where his wife and kid, Danny and Wendy. And then this is supposed to be like a 5 months project that he's supposed to take care of this Overlook Hotel. And he's also during this process going to write some kind of script or some kind of book. It's not really clear what it is. So he gets told by his employer that in 1970 there was a guy in a similar state that went to this hotel to be like the janitor. And this will be important later. And he killed his wife and daughter by correcting them. It's kind of a thing. He went crazy and stuff. So this hotel is not a good place. But Jack says he's not gonna go crazy and it's gonna be fine. And then cutting to the son Danny, he's talking to his imaginary friend called Tony, and he does this by waving his finger when Tony talks. And this kid is actually called Danny Lloyd, I believe. He makes this raspy voice with his own. It's kind of like an older gentleman's or like a chain smoking kind of voice. Kind of cool actually. So he talks to Tony if he should be worried about the Overlook Hotel where they're going, and he has this ability called the Shining, and which we'll get into later in the movie, where he can perceive dead things and weird stuff that happen. Like the dead leave an imprint when they die, or something gets left behind. So he sees like a hotel lobby flooding with blood and 2 twins. And this will also become important later in the movie. Then the text pop up on screen saying the closing day. So the family goes to the Overlook Hotel. It's in the middle of nowhere up on the mountains. And then he goes to play dart. So he tosses the dart at the board, and when he turns around, the twins are there. There were 2 twins in the corridor in his vision, also when everything was flooded. So it's kind of a weird thing, but it will all make sense in the end, I guess, or not. So apparently the hotel was built in like an Indian burial ground, which is always a good idea to do. Why would you do that? So to get a tour of the hotel, and this a black man, the cook, or like a food manager, he basically offers Danny some ice cream, and the other adults go to check out the hotel some more. So apparently this guy has the same ability as Danny, so he knows that something is wrong with the hotel, and he senses that Danny has this ability as well. So I wonder, why would you want to be at a hotel which is haunted by evil spirits and ghosts? It's just a terrible idea. So Danny then asks him, because he has this ability, he asks the man like, what's in room 237? And the cook says there's nothing in that room, and there's obviously a lie. It's a terrible place, which also will become important later in the movie. So then cutting to a month later, and Danny goes around the hotel like riding a tricycle, and Jack is supposed to do his writing project, but it's not going really well, so he has a writer's block. And Danny walks into this hedge maze, which is outside the compound, and while he's doing that, his father is looking out of a mock-up model inside the hotel lobby. And then it's Tuesday, and Danny happens to ride his bicycle outside the room 237, and he tries to open the door, but it's locked. And meanwhile this is happening, Jack is frustrated about his writing, and he lashes out on his wife and tells him to go away. And then it's Saturday, there's some heavy snow, and they lose contact with the outside world, so they manage to get the radio working and ask why the phone is down. And Danny runs into the twins again, and they ask him to come and play with him, and then there is like a flood of blood throughout the corridor again, and it's Monday. So Danny goes to talk to Jack, and it's really weird because Jack is really, his mind has been twisted by the hotel, so he's not quite himself. So there's this weird talk that Danny and Jack has to one another, where it's really uncomfortable, where he says like, are you gonna hurt us, Dad? And did your mom tell you that? And his mind is already kind of weird and really uncomfortable, as I said. Then it's Wednesday, and Danny goes to play with his toys cars, and for some reason he's outside that creepy room 237, and the door is open, so he goes in. And then cutting to the Wendy, the wife, with the generators down in the cellar, and she hears Jack screaming. So she runs to Jack, and he's actually fallen asleep on the typewriter. And he wakes him up, and he said he had the most terrible dream, the terrible nightmare he's ever had. He dreamt that he killed his family. And meanwhile this is happening, Danny comes back, and he has strangle marks on his neck. And Wendy accuses Jack of strangling Danny, and Jack is not having it. He just goes away. He's really angry, and he goes into the lounge to sit down by the bar, and he says, I could do anything for a drink. I think he even says like he's gonna sell his soul for a drink. And when he's like, he has like his head in his hand like a face palm, and he looks up, and it's a bartender there called Lloyd. Really weird situation. His mind is already snapped, so he asks the bartender for a drink, and he gets some bourbon. Actually it's not bourbon, it's Jack Daniels. It's a sour mash technically, but whatever. So the barkeeper gives him that strange bourbon. It's like a discussion they have between one another. So Wendy finds Jack sitting in the lounge all by himself, and he tells him that Danny told her that there was a woman that strangled him. So Jack goes to look at the room, and he finds a naked woman in a tub, which of course he starts to kiss. And when he pulls away, he realizes that it's an old woman that's been molded, like been laying in the tub for a while, and she chases him. Really creepy and weird. So Wendy asks Jack when he comes back, like, was there anything in that room? And Jack says, of course not. The door was just open, so he just wandered in there by himself. And Jack says he probably strangled himself or something, which is really weird. But of course Jack snaps because they have this argument, and Jack leaves. And he goes to the lounge again, and he hears voices. And then the whole area is full of people, like with all these nice fancy clothes, like dresses and costumes. And he goes to grab another bourbon from the waiter, and he's about to go do something, and the waiter spills something on him. So they go to this bathroom, which is a really weird bathroom. It's a combination of red, the walls are all red and everything. And then the waiter tells him his name, and he's sorry that he ruins his suit. And Jack realized that the name is familiar, and he realized also that was the previous groundskeeper, the previous janitor, then the guy that killed his own kids and went mad. And there's this weird like discussion between the two. So Jack has more or less agreed to the ghost's plan at this point. So he goes to the radio, and he pull up this like ship or something out of the radio so they can't communicate. And then the cook from earlier, with the same ability as Danny, he has like a vision. So he goes to try to reach Overlook Hotel, or at least he tried to contact them via phone, but the phone lines are down, and the radio, there's no response. So Wendy goes to look what Jack has been writing all this time on this project, and all the papers are written like it's like this verse about no play makes Jack a dull boy, and it's written on all the papers, like line after line after line, and it's really creepy. And then Jack arrives and says, do you find what you were looking for? And he becomes really aggressive, and they back up these kind of stairs, and Wendy's carrying a bat, and she actually hits Jack with the bat, and he falls down the stairs, and he drags him into the pantry to just calm down and try to figure out what to do next. So when Jack becomes conscious in the pantry, he starts to talk to Wendy, and he actually says that you are not going anywhere, because he's basically disabling the snowmobile as well. So apparently the ghosts have some way of opening the door when Wendy is away, and the ghost says, like, promise me that you will kill your family and I will let you out. And that's exactly what it does. So cutting to Wendy and Danny in their room, and Danny is possessed by Tommy, and he uses a lipstick to write red rum on the door. And he starts to chant red rum until Wendy wakes up, and she looks in the mirror and she sees murder written, because it's like backwards writing. So when this is happening, Jack bursts into the room with an axe, try to axe in the door, and they go to the bathroom, and Wendy managed to get Danny out the window, but she can't fit outside the frame because she's too big and it's all snowy and stuff. So Danny runs away, and meanwhile this is happening, the cook, the other guy with the shining, arrives to save the day, and he walks into the lobby screaming, asking if people are there, and he gets killed by Jack. So Wendy managed to escape the room because Jack was busy with killing the other cook guy. So what happens is that Jack goes after Danny in the hedge maze, and it's all like a blizzard out now, full winter, and Jack is just following the footprints of Danny, but Danny's a smart kid, so he realized that he can go back in his own footprints to fool Jack. So he managed to hide away and managed to escape. So Wendy and Danny goes into the snowmobile that the old manager, the cook, left, and they escape, and Jack freezes to death in the hedge maze because he couldn't really find a way out because the footprints and everything in the cold. So this is a really weird shot. They cut to the hotel lobby. There's a photo on the wall, and they zoom in, and the guy in the photo, there's from the launch area, and all the guys in the photo nice get up and everything, and apparently Jack is right in the middle, or in front of the whole crowd in a black tuxedo. And it's really weird because this photo was taken 1921, so I don't really get it, but that's how the movie ends. It's a really creepy and eerie way to end a movie, in my opinion. So what do I think about The Shining? Well, it holds up surprisingly well, and I wouldn't spend a day on a hotel with a axe-wielding murderer because it's really eerie. So there's a cool feature on this DVD set where the daughter of Stanley Kubrick, called Vivian, she actually just walks into Jack Nicholson's dressing room, and she starts to film, and he's really weird and creepy, and they walk down to the set, and she basically documents the thing from behind the camera. And there's this one scene where he's supposed to axe down the door to the bathroom, and he's prepping for the scene. He's just chanting I'm gonna kill her, I'm just gonna kill her, and just waving the axe around, and almost hit a stage extra, or guys doing measurements and whatever. And the weird thing about this scene is that he actually, as I didn't know this, he actually had a career as a reserve fireman, so he actually know how to axe down a door pretty well, and they have to reinforce the door to actually hold his smashing. And it also has this creepy, the more famous lines in the movie, I should say, where he sticks it in his head through the broken door and yells "Here's Johnny." And if that doesn't frighten you, I don't know what. But it's a good cinematic movie, and it's a lot of good shots and a lot of good visuals, and I believe Stanley Kubrick is a genius. So I can definitely recommend this movie. Go watch it. What are you waiting for? So anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and take care.